We'll now move on to our third session, and this is on gig workers in logistics. Retail trade hired about 39% of gig workers in India in the financial year 2020, and this was followed by the transport sector employing about 20%. Now, gig workers often struggle with precarious employment conditions, limited access to benefits, and fluctuating income streams. In the absence of effective social security initiatives for gig workers, in this session, we will explore innovative solutions and collaborative approaches to address these pressing issues and empower gig workers in the logistics sector. So, for this session, please welcome our speakers on stage. Please give a round of applause and welcome on stage Mr. Ajoy Clement Salve, CHRO of Xpressbees, Mr. Pankaj Kalass, Vice President Delhivery, Mr. Bhupesh Swantdesai, CHRO Green Line, Mr. Abhijeet Kadam, Senior Director Flipkart, and this session will be moderated by Mr. Hemant Vishnoi, Mentor Isource.
So good evening, everyone, and thank you, our delegates, Ajoy, Chirag, Pankaj, Mr. Bhupesh. So gig workforce in India is basically one opportunity which is transforming the employment landscape very, very fast, very rapidly. And it is being done with the help of some very intelligent technology and platforms which are available, which are leveraging their artificial intelligence to match up the opportunities with the skills. They also bring to the table the business intelligence to optimize the operational efficiencies, and also machine learning to create forecasting models. Also, these platforms are providing great opportunities to companies in the sector of insurance and microfinancing, because these sectors can now tailor make products for the workforce data which is readily available with these platforms. So it's a significant opportunity for us to have such a good panel over here, and I'll start with some questions to the panel. I'll start with Ajay. So Ajay, how do you foresee gig economy going forward in next 5 to 10 years?
So the gig economy is not just expanding, it is going to explode in the next few years. One is because the e-com industry itself is booming, and the next 10, 15 years is going to be a complete rage from an e-com perspective. Also the fact that automation, technology, use of platforms, IoT, machine learning, and AI has enabled creation of movement of people, not just from the rural sector, but also from the urbanized service sector. Everything is available on your mobile handset, right from the e-com booking that you do, to how it is getting delivered, how the efficiency is getting improved, use of technology for deliveries is all going to enable the gig workforce. There are going to be various models which will be available in the gig workforce. People will have the ability to choose what they want to do, when they want to do, how they want to do, as part of the gig workforce. I think a lot of enablement will happen with the gig environment as such.
Right. So, which means that we'll be able to give a lot of flexibility to the workforce with regards to when they want to work or choose their working hours, and identify their ideal hours and utilize them. Would we be ready in next 4 to 5 years, or 5 to 10 years with that kind of business intelligence or artificial intelligence, which can predict, workload in a particular pocket. What do you think about
I
that?
think 5 years is a very long shot, Hemant. A lot of companies today are enabling that, and use of technology is the backbone of the logistics industry. I think the newer generation logistics industries are utilizing it very, very efficiently and effectively. And I think some of the traditional companies will have to step up. Otherwise, they might lose out on the effectiveness and the efficiency that the newer generation companies are offering. Also, technology, today itself, logistics companies are able to tell with using geotechnology, for example, what are the routes, what is the efficiency, how much can be delivered, what time can be picked up, what is the shortest possible route that can be used to deliver things. I think all of this enablement is not 5 years down. It is happening right now. And I think it will all get enabled much more and faster in the next couple of years' time.
Okay, one very important question to Pankaj, since you guys are one of the leaders in implementing, variable model into the last mile. How do you cope up with the challenge, or how difficult it is to meet the demand with supply? I think that is the biggest challenge which a gig working environment today is facing, especially in the e-commerce packet deliveries. So how are you guys? How do you foresee it? How to handle it, and what are you doing currently to cope up with that problem?
Sure. Am I audible? Yeah. So, honestly, there are two facets to it, right? When it comes to gig economy, and especially into last mile deliveries. Companies like ours, where primarily we need people for the morning shift, and then there are other folks who are primarily operating in the night shift. And when it comes to demand and supply, and I would also like to bifurcate it between gig vis-a-vis someone who has a regular job. A lot of people these days, a lot of candidates are preferring to work in a gig model just to have that flexibility in place. And so far, it's only in certain cities where we do see that demand and supply challenge, but otherwise, majority of the folks are preferring these days to work in gig model rather than working full time and have not to have that flexibility of how many hours to work in a day. They want to operate with which partner at any point in time. We do give that flexibility also to gig workers. They can probably be working with Ajoy as well as with me at the same point in time. So there is certain challenge, but that is limited to specific cities, not everywhere. Folks are actually liking the gig model more than the regular one, especially when it comes to making deliveries.
But especially in your logistic company scenario, wherein a lot depends on the projection versus what is actually landing, and when you see that there is going to be a 25% or 30% surge in the landing scenario, how do you handle it real time, or do you feel that gig working environment today is able to cope up with that kind of scenario?
Okay, so one thing how we do it, right? So we also manage our first mile. Luckily with that, we have a head start of about 24 to 48 hours about when and which particular pin code, how many volumes or how much surge we will be having. And accordingly, we reach out to our folks. So typically, whenever and whichever facility we operate in, we do have certain projections which are broad-based projections 2 weeks, 3 weeks before, and very precise projections 24 to 48 hours before. And accordingly, we do place our resources, and we have been fairly successful in doing so.
Okay. Chirag, I have a question for you. Generally, you see a lot of gig workers are engaged with different platforms, right? So what do you feel should be done to keep them engaged with you? I mean, there is always an opportunity for the gig worker to work for 10 platforms, but as an organization, how will you keep them motivated to engage, to get themselves engaged with you? And whenever you have a demand, they should be able to fulfill the demand, or whenever you create an opportunity for them, they should be able to grab up the opportunity.
So, yeah. So basically, there are 2, 3 layers into the value chain. So one is, for example, I will say the end business they're working for. So let's say they're working for Delhivery or Ecom or Xpressbees or somebody else. And then there are aggregated platforms like us, and there are other aggregation platforms. So in a way, platforms like us are already giving them the opportunity to work with multiple businesses. So the one layer is already there, right? Now she's saying that will there be a second layer and they can be choosing with the multiple platforms? I will say they really don't want it, but we have to understand the role of aggregator. The role of aggregator, one, is basically to ensure the transparency. So for example, if there is a transparency in terms of the wages, how much is going to earn, what are the conditions. For example, if there is a penalty, if the penalties are communicated well to the person, if he's well informed about what are the, for example, there can be a penalty for late reporting. So if he's aware and understand these criteria, this is one area. The second area is basically that is he getting his money on time? Like transparency is one part, but the logistics of the money. That if he's getting the money by delay or is he getting, so for example, the ideal is that, for example, let's say a guy working for Swiggy, and the moment he delivers the order, he receives the money and get an SMS, right? That's an ideal way. Because then he says, oh, I did my delivery and I got the money. Now, these are the areas. Third area is basically some kind of a security. So, for example, are there some benefits in terms of accidental insurance? Is there a network of support if something happens? Can there be people coming to him to support him on a road if there is an accident happens? So, these are the basically the 2, 3 layers which differentiates one aggregator with another aggregator.
Okay, Bhupesh, I would like to ask what should be done to encourage these gig workers to continuously enhance their skill sets, because technology is growing, right? And there many new things are coming. So, what do you feel should be done to ensure that these people are up to the mark with regards to the skill sets which are required?
Okay, so I think more from a skill set enhancement standpoint and make the workplace more attractive for them. Efforts need to be done at an organization level. When these gig workers or these employees come at your workplace, at what extent they are enabled to, or how that performance enablement happened because of that skill. If that is evident to them and they are start earning more, probably that is another subtle message to that community that this is the company who invest on them and enable them to earn more. That is one part. And another, some kind of a reinforcement mechanism from the organization side also need to be looked at. If I reflect back on my few experiences in various organizations, the clear efforts on how you make them more employable, how we make them more, how they gain more, and their well-being is something that has been looked up. Rather, we used to have a boomerang hiring ratio in few of the organizations. So, for example, we hire people for 30 days, 45 days. My HR team used to have a clear metrics whether we have a 75% boomerang hiring. What does it mean is that what kind of experience that we have offered to them, what kind of a learning opportunity we have provided to them, and whenever they are coming back, are they getting an enhanced role? So I think that efforts to be done. While we do everything, we may have a good intent, but we need to have a right mechanisms in place. It is well said, right? So a lot of time we need to invest more on the how we build the skill academy, how we put effort on them, how they deploy, and how we refresh their training. There should be some structured effort and deliberate effort from the organization. Today it may not be required, but looking at the future skills, looking at the future knowledge which is required to be delivered, probably that investment ahead of the curve from the organization side we need to do. And we need to create as more of an attractive place so that this entire 98% is unorganized workforce right now. Only 2%, 3% is in the organized sector. 50% is in the rural side. How we can create that attraction for them is more important. Yeah.
Okay. Abhijeet, you have a very unique opportunity. I think uniquest of all. You are on both sides of the table, right? So you generate business as well as you deliver your own business. And nowadays you are one of your concern is offering to other customers also that services of delivery. So one is that you have a very unique and special insight on what is coming, right? With regards to if we want to do a modeling for, how is the landing going to happen? One is that how are you utilizing that information which is available with you, and also are you seeing some cross leverages with your service providers in giving them information and making their modeling strong with regards to how they can strengthen their supply side by utilizing your intelligence?
So, what we normally do is that, of course, there are predictions like Pankaj also said about it, that we generally have a leeway or a lead time when FM picks it up. But if you look at the technology, how it is progressing now, with AI and machine learning being part of the platforms as well who are selling, you get to know. So there is a lot of predictive analytics that happens, and you get to know how the seller trends are happening, how the customer trends are linking towards. Basis that, the entire demand generation starts happening at the back end. We get much, so these days the technology has progressed so much that almost 2 weeks before, 3 weeks before, we know which pin code will have what kind of landing, what kind of shipments will come. So the shipments are also further, the logistic industry has evolved so much that they have further categorized the shipments into specific elements, like say people call it large, non-large, grocery, and so on. Now, everybody in the system is aware that what kind of shipments will land in what pin codes, what type of people or what type of vehicles, etc., would be required to deliver these shipments. Now, we work very closely with our own supply chain team, but apart from that, we have series of partners across the country. The reason being is that none of the companies right now is able to cater to the entire demand that the country is offering on its own. So you would require, and of course, all of these partners are present across the country, because nobody is present across the country everywhere. So this is where the partners take so the organizers take full advantage of the partners, and we normally share that insight with all of the partners that we have, and that is how it starts working. So we work very closely with Delhivery. So Delhivery, Xpressbees, Ecom Express, etc., are very, very integral part to our supply chain. So this entire stuff works in such a manner that it is almost like a business partnership that you land on the ground, and customer expertise comes to, and there is a cross utilization of technology also. Their technology is synced in with our technology, so that is how it works.
One more very important question for you is that, unlike the hyperlocal scenario wherein the customer who's ordering food, he's giving the location of his address, right? So over here, while we take the order, or if I go to Flipkart or Amazon or any other e-commerce site and give the order, it is a non-mandate to give your location, Google location over there. So there is a big challenge on, and here comes the dissatisfaction level also in the gig worker, because non-accuracy of the location also leads to wrong routing of the shipment, or maybe at the last mile allocating it to the wrong person. How do you deal with these difficulties?
See, these used to be problems of the past now. Most of the companies now have started verifying their customers upfront when they are registering themselves or enrolling them on the platform. So that point of time, it is mandatory that you have to share your Google location, because see, what happens is a lot of people, and there are a lot of fraudsters also involved in buying and selling goods on the platform. You don't want to land into a situation where, and there have been examples where some illegal materials have been shipped through platforms. So the organizations have to be extremely careful on who is a seller, who is a customer. And similarly, you have to take care, and there are multiple organizations who have now started doing background verification of customers as well, to ensure that they have a good track record, they do not have legal background as such. So all of that keeps taken care of.
No, but speaking from the logistic industry point of view, when you provide us the pickup data, you don't pass on the Google location to us. The PIN doesn't get passed on, right? So either they use a local geocoder to convert the address into a PIN, or it is manually allocated at the branch, which creates a lot of. I think that is one area where a lot of work has to be done, or a lot of help is required for the logistic industry. What are you planning to, or are there plans to pass on such data to them also, so that they can utilize and they can be more accurate with regards to their allocation logic?
So what Flipkart as an organizer started doing is we are trying to work on specific technology syncing with our partners' tech, so that the entire information gets passed on without sharing the Google location or sensitive data with the entire org as such. So it will be like the wishmaster or the delivery person would directly get that access in their application, because this is the sensitive data that the organizer has to take care of, because every customer's geolocation, name, mobile number, these are considered as very, very sensitive data. But there is work going on from the backend tech, etc., that we are looking at directly syncing the the delivery person's application with our system, so that
Which is a third party app, right? So delivery app, ecom express app,
Correct.
Xpressbees app. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So I'll anyone. I mean, I'm throwing a question to the forum. I mean, you can answer basis your expertise on this. So, what are the legal challenges that the industry anticipates with regards to when we engage a gig workforce? Because there are no legal labor laws that governs them, and maybe Government of India very soon is going to, formalize certain legal laws to it. So, how do you foresee that shaping up the gig workforce and gig economy?
So I'll take that first. So first thing that the logistics industry has been struggling as a newer player specifically is the categorization of workforce. So basically the classification of workforce, we can say. If you have to engage gig workers, then you have to ensure that non-exclusivity is in place. We have to ensure that mutual application of giving and taking work is there. We have to ensure that there is no supervision control. So those elements have to be taken care of really well. What the logistics industry has done really well is taking care of the social security of our people. So if you look at all the platforms that are deploying gig workers, you will see they have given their own insurance. While ESI and PF is not applicable to them, still they have gone ahead and ensured that they get all social security benefits like best-in-class insurance scheme, best-in-class accident insurance. There are certain companies who have gone ahead and are giving leaves for absence due to sickness and accidents, etc. So all of that has now been taken care of. There are organizations who are offering retention-related benefits, which is very, very similar to how gratuity works. While the code of social security is coming in, but the organizations have really done well in treating their people fairly. So working conditions, etc., require some work because of the excessive productivity-linked, customer-obsessed work culture. But broadly, that is where the progress is all about.
Okay. Also to the forum, one last question, because I have been told to wrap up fast. There is a shift which we are seeing towards how we ship. So from a centralized warehousing model, it's a dropship model which is taking up very fast, and it's coming up with a lot of challenges, because there can be 40,000-50,000 sellers in one city. Maybe 150,000 active sellers, out of which on a particular day 30,000 wants to give the pickup. So how do you utilize the gig workforce to cater to this? Because this is going to eat up the maximum cost for a logistic industry. So maybe Ajoy and Pankaj, you are the best guys to answer this.
So I think this whole thing has to evolve, Hemant, because right now we are very focused on pickup from a particular place, a particular vendor, and all of that. Over a period of time, and using resources who are very demarcated. But the way I see it evolving is, over a period of time, you would have a plethora of people available in your pool. And if somebody is going along that lane, can do that pickup and bring it over. It does not have to mean that only Ajoy will go and pick it up. They will be registered on the platform. They will be available. And on the app, they will have the ability to choose that I'm going on that path. I will go and pick it up for you and deliver it at that location. So I think there's still some work to be done in that arena, but that is where the model is going to work.
Yeah. So thank you. I think, yeah, Pankaj, you were saying something.
I was just saying that while at delivery, we work with a mesh network across the country, right? So it doesn't matter the shipment has to be picked from which pin code, which location. Uh, Nobody regionally has to use any decision at any point in time, right? Everything is system driven. A very latest example is yesterday my wife was sending Rakhi gifts to her brother. So same thing, right? So pick up pin code, drop pin code. Morning the agent came in, picked up, and then most likely in 2 days it will be delivered as well. So uh, with the enormous amount of network, these things have become much more simpler these days.
Yeah. So thank you. Thanks to the panel, and thank you everyone. If you have any questions, if we have any questions from the audience.
My question is, apart from the logistics or apart from the last mile drivers that we are talking about, what all different segments can we gigify? Because if you're talking about, there are, let's say, a survey or a national data that has been published, it says 23.5 million gig workers by 2030. So it is not only logistics, it is much more than that. It goes beyond that if we want to enable the gig, let's say, ecosystem. So on your experience, what all different departments you see can be gigified in coming years or are already being gigified? Thank you.
Okay.
So yeah, I think, yeah, Bhupesh.
No worries. I think just I would like to throw some light on the rural part of it, because that will be more interesting, because more than 50% workforce is there. I experimented one model for the sales workforce in the rural. Initially, there was apprehension because largely gig workforce or a contractual workforce or the entire labor workforce is in the agriculture or agri-tech related. But when we want to appoint the sales representative to get the orders for the rural retail stores, I hired more than 4,000 workforce in more than 80,000 stores in the rural India. Uh, I think that is giving a really good confidence that that paradigm is shifting now. They are moving beyond the agri-tech or the process or a manufacturing setup. The sales and the new generation is trying to look at, they rather want to mirror how my friend or my relative is conducting himself in the town. So there is a really good behavioral shift and the acceptance. And now the FMCG companies are also appreciating to appoint the people. The whole day, it's morning 7 to 12 o'clock, they take the orders. And the rest of the day, they go on the rural commitments or a family business or whatever responsibilities they have. There is a really good paradigm shift I have seen in this particular.
Chirag, you also have some inputs on what are the industries which can be gigified.
So I have some inputs in this. So one is that we have to look into the workforce of India. So like for example, some 10 to 15% of the workforce is, we can say, formal, and while 85% is informal. Now, while the gig is a modern word, but this in pockets was already existing. So for example, we used to have a mechanic working on the mechanic shop, and he was actually a gig worker. Or for example, you will have an electrical shop and a hardware shop and a plumber is working there, or an electrician is working there, is actually a gig worker. So the one question is that, okay, how much of this workforce is getting formalized? Now, gig is a way where formal industries are engaging the informal workers in a semi-formal way, right? This is basically one definition of gigification which is happening. The second is that formal workforce, which is, for example, the classical engineers or the classical, for example, the digital marketers or, for example, the coders, now working as a freelancer, which means they are choosing it for the lifestyle purpose. So their motivation is different, and then they're actually moving from formal to semi-formal for the purpose of flexibility. So that is the second facet where it is happening. The third facet which is happening is that, for example, the people who are, like, say, post-retired or in the later stage who actually leave a skill set now want to have some work for the purpose of their mental health, engagement, or you can say some personal reasons. So these are basically the few reasons. Or, for example, the same lies with the students. Now, when we get into the industries, for example, logistics is definitely the one which actually we synonym with gig. But there are, for example, the service industry, and we as a platform are working for a lot of service industries in which we, the installation work, like for example, the likes of urban company. Now, when you buy a fan, the fan also need to be installed. Now this work of technical work, EPC work, plumbing work is getting gigified. Urban company has done to one level. Now we have seen businesses engaging these workforce for the after sales services also in the gig format. Just to put an example, I'm sure even in this house, we are having so many people in the events. Many of them will be actually freelancer today, and they will actually be a gig worker. So I think it is basically more about the shift of formal to semi-formal for the flexibility, and informal to semi-formal for the purpose of benefits and recognition are the key drivers.
Thank you.
I'll give you some examples. Doctors
Yeah, I
who
was
have
about
their
to-
own practice are gig workers. Musicians are gig workers. Journalists are gig workers. I think IT promotes a lot of gig workers. So these are, and this has been in practice for a very long time. So
Yeah, thanks. Thank you so much. Thank you, panel. Thank you so much.
Please give a round of applause to our speakers. I would request Mr. Amit Shankthar and Mr. Prem Prakash to please come up on stage to present our speakers with mementos and gifts for coming here. We thank them for their insights on this important issue of gig workers. Request you to please present a memento to Mr. Ajoy Clement Salve of Xpressbees. A memento and gift for Mr. Pankaj Kalass. A memento and gift for Mr. Bhupesh Swantdesai, Mr. Abhijeet Kadam, and Mr. Hemant Vishnoi. I request all of you to please gather for a group photograph. Thank you, gentlemen.